Discovering his lunch was stolen, a Cambodian farmer decided to investigate and was shocked to see a strange wild creature crawling on the ground, digging with its hands in search of food. After the entire village captured it, they found out it was a wild girl, completely naked, with disheveled hair, making growling sounds like a wild animal. However, a Western journalist claimed that this girl hadn't lived in the forest for 2 decades, but had been imprisoned by someone, sparking much controversy. A police officer admitted that this wild girl was his daughter, who had been missing for 19 years, without needing DNA testing. Shockingly, 9 years later, a Vietnamese man made a groundbreaking claim about the wild girl, leaving everyone stunned by the unexpected truth. Before starting the story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel to receive notifications whenever a new video is released. This is a bizarre true story that happened in a remote village in Ratanakiri Province, Cambodia. A villager went to work in the field and, as his house was far away, brought along a lunchbox to eat at noon. After a tiring morning of work, the man rested to prepare for lunch, only to discover that his lunchbox had disappeared. Suspecting a ghost, as the field was very close to the primeval forest, he panicked and ran home. The next day, when he returned to the field, the farmer found his crops broken by someone, and strange footprints on the ground that seemed to belong to a 4-legged creature. The forests in Ratanakiri Province, located in the northeast of Phnom Penh, are all ancient, untouched forests. Many villagers never dare to venture into the forest, as they've heard rumors of primitive tribes living deep within the jungle. Believing that some wild human had stolen his food, the farmer decided to set up an ambush to investigate. One day, he heard a noise and secretly followed it. From a distance, he spotted a creature crawling on the ground, seemingly searching for something. Determined to uncover the truth, the farmer decided to get closer. Before he could comprehend what was happening, the man suddenly panicked when he discovered the wild human growling and crawling toward him. Being alone and frightened, he quickly ran back to the village to report the incident. Convinced there was a half-human, half-beast wild creature living in the forest stealing food, several villagers decided to gather and capture it. They prepared ropes and sticks, then headed to the field, waiting for the chance to capture this strange wild human. On January 13, 2007, the group of men began to act cautiously. When they noticed movement, they all advanced simultaneously, but were stunned when confronted by the wild human. The wild human appeared before them naked, with disheveled hair, crawling on the ground, hands digging for food. When one man got closer, he discovered that the wild human was actually a girl, but she could not speak. Her mouth only emitted growling sounds, as if trying to drive the villagers away. Seeing that the group carried sticks and ropes, the wild girl curled up in fear. As the villagers prepared to capture the wild girl, a strange naked man suddenly appeared. Seeing the girl surrounded by the villagers, he swung an object resembling a sickle through the air repeatedly, seemingly attempting to rescue his companion. Realizing he could not save the girl, the man retreated into the forest. Fearing there might be more wild humans, the villagers decided to use every method to bring the girl back to the village. It took some time for the villagers to finally bring the half-human, half-beast girl to the village health station. As they moved, the wild girl screamed out loud, sending chills down anyone who heard her. News of the villagers in Ratanakiri Province capturing a wild human quickly spread across the country. Even international media rushed to the area to investigate the mysterious wild girl. What puzzled many people was that the wild human was found in Cambodia's largest primeval forest, where there is a significant temperature difference. How could a girl, wearing nothing, survive for decades in such a cold environment, and what did she eat to sustain herself? To uncover the truth about the mysterious wild girl, villagers continuously flocked to see her in person. Some speculated that the wild human exhibited behaviors similar to monkeys and suspected that she might have lived among a troop of monkeys deep in the forest. Since the wild girl could not speak, Villagers could only refer to her as the wild girl or wild human. Sao Lu, a local police officer, had been particularly interested in the wild girl from the beginning. The couple once had a daughter who went missing in the late 1980s. When he saw the wild girl, he suspected that she was his daughter who had been missing for decades. After conducting some investigation, the police officer immediately declared that the wild girl was his missing daughter, named Rosham Pianzheng. The reason he identified her as his daughter was because of a scar on the wild girl's arm. His daughter had also had a scar from a knife injury she sustained while playing before she went missing. Moreover, the wild girl had many facial features resembling his wife. However, Sao Lu's claim was doubted by many villagers, as there was no evidence proving the wild girl was his long-lost daughter. The middle-aged man stated that his daughter went missing when she was 8 years old. The last time he saw his daughter was in 1988, when she was herding buffalo near the forest close to the Vietnamese border. Although he and the villagers searched everywhere, they couldn't find his daughter. At the edge of the forest, they only found the buffalo still grazing, but there was no trace of his daughter. At that time, the villagers believed there were only two possibilities: either the girl had gotten lost in the forest, or she had been kidnapped. However, the scene where Sao Lu's daughter disappeared showed no suspicious signs. As a result, everyone agreed that the girl had wandered deep into the forest. But misfortune continued to strike the family when Sao Lu's second daughter, who was 6 years old, also went missing a few days later. The younger girl was never found, and the police officer and his wife lived in grief over the loss of their children for nearly 2 decades. If the wild girl had been missing since that time, it would mean she had lived in the forest for 19 years without ever coming into contact with humans. Amid everyone's skepticism, the couple planned to conduct DNA testing to prove that the wild girl was their daughter, Rosham. However, for unknown reasons, Sao Lu's family withdrew their plans for DNA testing. Nonetheless, the couple was still officially recognized by local authorities as the biological parents of the wild girl. While the true identity of the wild girl remained unclear, a journalist from The Guardian made some surprising conclusions after meeting her. The journalist observed that the deep forest wild girl had deep scars on her wrists and left ankle. When asked, Sao Lu said that when his daughter went missing, she only had a knife scar on her arm and none on her legs. He believed these injuries were caused during her time living in the jungle. However, the Western journalist did not believe this explanation and suggested that the deep scars might have been caused by someone imprisoning her. Furthermore, Rosham's feet did not resemble those of someone who had lived in the forest for 19 years. When observing the wild girl eating rice, the journalist also noticed that Rosham could use a spoon without needing instruction. This indicated that the claim she had lived in the jungle for 19 years was unreasonable. Moreover, if she had truly been lost in the forest since the age of 8, she would certainly not know how to use a spoon to eat rice after nearly 2 decades in the wild. The journalist speculated that the girl might have mental health issues and had been imprisoned by someone in the deep forest. Since it was a wild jungle, very few villagers ventured into it, believing it would disturb the forest spirits. Additionally, many villagers claimed to have seen a naked man trying to rescue the girl when she was caught stealing food. This further supported the theory that the wild girl had been held captive by someone. Up until the time the girl was found, the villagers never saw the mysterious man wielding a sickle again. Out of fear of the mysterious jungle and potential wild animals, no one dared to go deep into the forest to search further. The foreign journalist believed that the girl had escaped from captivity due to hunger, which led her to search for food. The journalist suggested conducting a thorough investigation to clarify the issue, but Cambodia did not proceed due to a lack of manpower and resources. They also did not conduct a psychological evaluation of the woman, and instead allowed Sao Lu's family to take her in. The Western journalist's perspective was supported by Laikado, a Cambodian human rights NGO. The organization believed that the girl, recognized by Sao Lu's family as Rosham, was a victim of kidnapping, imprisonment, and abuse. The marks on her arms were evidence that the wild girl had been tied up with ropes by someone. Due to her unclear mental state, or possibly because she suffered from a mental illness, she was easily exploited and imprisoned to satisfy someone's physical desires. Despite lingering questions about the wild girl's identity or the mysterious man who appeared at the same time as Rosham, these issues were ignored. Even tests to determine whether the girl had been sexually assaulted were not conducted. Skipping these necessary examinations left the question of whether she lived in the forest for 19 years or had been imprisoned for that time a perpetual mystery. After Sao Lu claimed the wild girl as his daughter, the authorities handed her over to him and his wife to care for. However, teaching someone who had been isolated from the civilized world for nearly 2 decades was no easy task. The people in Ratanakiri province are mostly of the Nong ethnic group and do not follow any religion. Nevertheless, the police officer's family decided to take Rosham to a Buddhist temple, hoping the monks could help her find peace. However, this seemed impractical, as the girl constantly tried to return to the forest to live. A week after her discovery, a Spanish psychologist visited the wild girl. After observing her, he found that she could say a few basic words and smile in response to games involving animals or a mirror. When thirsty or hungry, instead of speaking, she would point to her mouth to indicate she wanted food. Furthermore, Rosham preferred crawling on the ground, rather than walking upright like a normal human. The psychologist suspected that she had been imprisoned in a cage, forcing her to crouch or crawl on the ground. Notably, Rosham disliked wearing clothes and would repeatedly remove them, despite her mother's efforts to dress her. Occasionally, she would appear naked in front of family members, making some feel uncomfortable. Although she lived with the family, Rosham often tried to sneak out of the house. To prevent this, her mother constantly tried to keep a close watch on her. Foreign journalists confirmed that Sao Lu and his wife genuinely loved Rosham and cared deeply for her. However, perhaps due to her unfamiliarity with human environments, the wild girl often displayed a weary, sad, and despondent expression. Not only did she struggle to adapt to modern life, but the constant visits and filming by numerous people caused the wild girl significant stress. Human rights organizations in Cambodia suspected that Rosham might have experienced traumatic events in the deep forest. This trauma affected her ability to speak and made her fearful of people. On September 25, 2007, Rosham disappeared into the forest without leaving a trace, leaving everyone bewildered. Numerous search efforts were organized by villagers, but no trace of the wild girl was found. Sao Lu believed that his daughter had returned to the deep forest, as she had previously escaped several times but was always found and brought back. During the months she lived with her family, she was unable to integrate into human life. She did not learn to speak, nor did she like wearing clothes. Everyone thought it was unlikely they would find her again this time, but they were all surprised when Rosham returned home after a few days of being missing. However, upon her return, she still refused to eat or speak, and her eyes wandered aimlessly around. Despite his old age, Sao Lu worked hard to earn money to take his daughter to a village shaman, hoping to expel the forest spirits from her. The family believed that with the right ritual, their daughter could return to normal. The village police officer himself did not believe that his daughter had a mental illness, as claimed by the Western journalists and human rights organizations. By July 2008, news that Rosham could feed herself, bathe, and dress brought joy to many people. However, there was concern as she still could not speak, only smiling while playing with the children in the household. Rosham's unstable mental state worried everyone, as by October 2009, she went an entire month without eating, forcing the family to admit her to the hospital. At this point, Sao Lu came to believe that his daughter had mental health issues and requested to conduct tests. After 3 years of being found and living with the family, he realized his daughter still could not adapt to human life. Rosham could not speak, continued to remove her clothes, and occasionally ran away, but always returned on her own. Feeling exhausted from caring for his mentally ill daughter, Sao Lu asked charitable organizations to take over her care, but his request was denied. By December 2009, Rosham began eating again and had started to understand and say a few words. However, not long after, on May 25, 2010, the family had to struggle again to search for her as she fled back into the forest. By early June, they found Rosham in a toilet about 100 meters from Sao Lu's house after neighbors heard strange crying sounds. Having stayed in the toilet for 11 days, Rosham's entire body was covered in filth. Following this incident, the wild girl was taken back to the hospital. By September that year, a Spanish mental health organization began teaching Rosham social skills. When her condition improved, Sao Lu's family took her back. However, she refused to sleep in the house and instead moved into a small chicken coop near the house. The wild girl ate rice with the family, but only ate once every 3 to 4 days. Although she could not speak, Rosham began communicating with others through eye contact. However, tragedy struck the family in 2013 when Sao Lu passed away. The responsibility of caring for Rosham fell to her mother, but due to her old age and poor health, Rosham was occasionally cared for by a human rights center. Life seemed to continue as it was until 2016, when a shocking piece of news turned everything upside down. In July 2016, a man named Pel from Gia Lai province in Vietnam came to the village and claimed that the woman was his missing daughter, named Tak. Pel asserted that his daughter, who had a mental illness, went missing in 2006, just 1 year before the wild girl was discovered by the Cambodians. Since northern Ratanakiri province borders Vietnam's Gia Lai province, it was plausible that the mentally ill woman had wandered into Cambodia. Pel recognized his daughter as the Cambodian wild girl after seeing some photos posted on Facebook. Moreover, Rosham had several identifying features that Pel believed matched his daughter, such as a mark on her lip, a scar on her wrist, and a condition with her ear. In addition, he brought 9 relatives and documents detailing Tak's date of birth and her disappearance to support his claim. The Vietnamese man also stated that, due to her mental illness, the girl had been unable to speak since childhood. This confirmed the initial theories of the foreign journalists, who suggested that the wild girl was not what she seemed. Clearly, Rosham had not lived in the forest for 2 decades, and the scars on her wrist could have been caused by her family in Vietnam when they confined her due to her mental illness. Because of her illness, she could not speak and behaved awkwardly, leading many to mistakenly believe these traits were a result of living in the forest for a long time. The adoptive family agreed with the viewpoint and believed that Pel was truly the biological father of the girl. According to them, no one would claim and care for a mentally ill person unless they were the biological parents. After authorities spent 2 weeks investigating the case, they confirmed that Pel was indeed the biological father of the wild girl. Pel's family also agreed to pay the adoptive family $1,500 compensation for caring for the girl. In August of the same year, Rosham Ponjang was sent back to Vietnam. The adoptive family cried as they said goodbye to her. The story of the Cambodian wild girl ends here. Share your thoughts, feelings, and opinions about this story in the comments section below the video. This video ends here. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. It helps us continue bringing you meaningful content. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next videos. The story of an 8-year-old boy marrying a 61-year-old woman, or a 24-year-old man marrying a 71-year-old grandmother, hides many secrets. After receiving a dream from his grandfather instructing him to get married, the boy chose a woman the same age as his grandmother instead of a girl his own age. After the marriage, how did the 8-year-old boy's life unfold? Did they face any opposition? What will be the outcome of these love stories with such massive age gaps? Let's now delve into these one-of-a-kind peculiar stories from around the world. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to the channel to receive notifications whenever we release a new video. This is a true story that took place in Tshwane, South Africa. Looking at this photo, anyone would think that the boy sitting with his legs dangling off the chair is enjoying dinner with his grandmother. But in reality, they are a married couple. The photo shows the groom, 8-year-old Sanel Masalela, having dinner with his new wife, Helen Shabangu, 61 years old, who already has a husband and 5 children. Dining with his wife, the world's youngest groom was thrilled to have become a married man. What's even more shocking is that they held their wedding twice within a span of 1 year. This bizarre story has left the world wondering if they are hiding some kind of secret. In May 2013, the wedding of the 8-year-old boy and the 61-year-old bride took place in Kildare Village, Zimbabwe, near Bushbuckridge in Mpumalanga, South Africa, shocking the world. Before the entire village, Sanele Masalela, dressed sharply in a suit, completed all the wedding rituals, including exchanging rings and kissing the 61-year-old bride. Even more surprisingly, the bride's first husband and their 5 children attended the wedding. Strangely, the villagers wholeheartedly supported this unusual wedding, despite the massive age gap between the bride and groom. Sanele asserted that the wedding day was the best day of his life because everything happened exactly as he had imagined. Despite being ridiculed by his peers for marrying a woman old enough to be his grandmother, Sanele felt proud as he genuinely felt like a real husband. Explaining the age gap marriage, the groom's mother recounted a thrilling story that captivated many. The boy, Sanele, was named after his grandfather, who had passed away a long time ago. Perhaps because he was named after his grandfather, Sanele shared a very special connection with him. One night, in a dream, Sanele saw his grandfather appear and tell him he must marry a wife. In the dream, his grandfather spoke to him through a wedding photo of Sanele's parents. Looking at the wedding photo, Sanele's grandfather expressed sadness because he had never had a modern wedding. Therefore, he asked his grandson to have a real-life wedding on his behalf. Upon waking up, Sanele recounted this story to his family. His mother, Mrs. Masalela, immediately thought of organizing a wedding for her son, despite him being only 8 years old. After thorough discussions, the family proposed the idea of a wedding for Sanele, but the bride would not be someone his age. Given the choice by his mother, the boy chose Helen, a 61-year-old family friend, as he was very fond of her. Sanele's family paid £500 for Helen to agree to be his wife and spent £1,000 on a grand wedding ceremony in Tshwane. Mrs. Masalela affirmed that their ancestors would be very happy because they followed the instructions of the deceased. According to her, if the family didn't do as their ancestors had instructed, terrible things would surely happen to them in the future. She also emphasized that the wedding was not wrong, as they had honored their ancestors, especially her late father-in-law. The woman confirmed that this was part of their local culture, which outsiders wouldn't understand. However, Mrs. Masalela also clarified that the wedding was purely ceremonial, not legally recognized, and the bride and groom had no legal obligations to each other. After the wedding, the two did not live together, but Helen was often invited to dine with the family of her 8-year-old husband. Sanele agreed with his mother's perspective and felt very happy to have married the 61-year-old woman. He returned to his normal life, continuing his studies and occasionally playing soccer with friends his age. He also hoped that once he grew up, he would marry a woman his own age, as his marriage to Helen had no legal binding. Meanwhile, Helen admitted that this ceremony was much more expensive than her initial wedding to her husband Alfred, who is 65 years old. However, she did not regret agreeing to marry the 8-year-old boy. Since the two families already knew each other, Helen did not face much difficulty with this. She also confirmed that before or after the wedding, Her family and Sinelli's would remain as close as ever, with no changes. Alfred, Helen's husband of 30 years, stated that he and their children were happy to see his wife marry the 8-year-old boy. One might think the story of this bizarre grandmother-grandson wedding would end here, but a year later, they once again stirred up social media. On February 12, 2014, the bride Helen Shabangu, now 62, and the groom Sini Masilela, now 9, held a second wedding ceremony. While some villagers voiced their opposition to this marriage, the boy's mother fully supported it. She reiterated that this was what their ancestors wanted, warning that bad things would happen to their family if they didn't follow through. However, she could not explain why they held a second wedding, despite the grand ceremony they had already organized in 2013. Helen's first husband, Alfred Shabangu, also stated that neither he nor their 5 children had any issues with her marriage to the boy. He said he didn't care about what others thought, focusing instead on maintaining the strong bond between the two families. Meanwhile, Sinele said he was happy to please his ancestors, but had no intention of letting this marriage hinder his future. Like his wife Helen, Sinele also expressed the idea of becoming a dual spouse in the future. The protagonists of this true story are from Guangxi Province, China, Wei Guixiang and Lan Shulian, who have a 47-year age gap, overcame societal judgment and family opposition, living reclusively in the mountains for 16 years. Wei Guixiang was born into a poor family. He had eye problems as a child, leaving his vision severely impaired and only able to see blurry images. Because of his vision issues, he couldn't move as freely as others, and sometimes relied on his hearing when working outside. At home, he was often ignored by his family, who were busy making a living and unable to care for him much. Despite this, Wei Guixiang did not feel inferior and refused to be defeated by his circumstances. He possessed a sweet singing voice, and whenever he had nothing to do at home, Guixiang would lift his spirits by singing with his clear, melodic voice. In 1987, while chopping wood in the mountains, Wei Guixiang unfortunately slipped and fell into a ravine, injuring his head. Luckily, a passerby discovered him and brought him to the village health station. It was there that Wei Guixiang met Lan Shulian. Seeing the injured young man, she didn't hesitate to step forward and help him. Unexpectedly, her act of kindness left a lasting impression on the young man. Lan Shulian's life was even more unfortunate. Because of her family's poverty, she worked as a servant for a wealthy family in the village from a young age. Upon reaching adulthood, she saved a bit of money and married a man from the village. After marrying, she and her first husband had a child, but the child tragically passed away at a young age. From then on, she and her husband often argued, and the poor woman lived in constant fear and despair. Unable to bear her husband's personality, she escaped her first marriage through divorce. But unfortunately, her second husband was just as bad. In her second marriage, they held a traditional wedding, but did not legally register their union. Her second husband was a heavy drinker who would insult and physically harm her whenever he was drunk. Unable to endure such hardship, she decided to leave. Since they weren't legally married, no formal procedures were needed. Unable to endure such hardship, she decided to leave. Since they weren't legally married, no formal procedures were needed. Over time, their relationship grew closer. Whenever she was near Wei Guixiang, she would listen to his singing voice. His warm and sincere voice touched her heart, which had long been hardened by life's hardships. These two lonely souls supported and helped each other, gradually developing an indescribable feeling for one another. Over time, the young man fell in love with a woman old enough to be his grandmother or mother. However, in their small traditional mountain village, the people found it hard to accept such a large age gap relationship. They frequently gossiped behind their backs, mocking Lan Shulian as a shameless old cow grazing on young grass. Fully aware of the vast age gap and inevitable criticism from the villagers, Lan Shulian proposed breaking up multiple times. But Wei Gixiang didn't see it that way. Despite his young age, he clearly understood what he wanted. Previously, he had felt a bit insecure about his poor eyesight, but through his bond with the woman 47 years older than him, he found life more refreshing. To him, she was kind, hardworking, and resilient, always giving him a sense of warmth. He affirmed that he wanted to stay by her side, accompanying her, and did not care about the so-called age gap. Although Lan Shulian had divorced her second husband, when he heard about her relationship with the young man, he sought trouble after drinking. One day, seeing the two talking in the fields, her ex-husband angrily approached with a hoe, shouting that he intended to harm Gixiang. Without hesitation, she used her frail body to shield her young boyfriend, pushing her ex-husband away with both hands. Drunk, the ex-husband fell to the ground. After this confrontation, she longed even more for true happiness. However, she remained concerned about the age gap and her inability to bear children for the young man. Aware of her worries, Gixiang reassured her that he didn't need anything else in life, just being together with her was enough. His determination gave the middle-aged woman confidence and the desire to live fully for love. In 1989, 21-year-old Wei Gixiang and 67-year-old Lan Shulian officially fell in love. Upon learning about their relationship, Wei's family strongly opposed it, as Julian was older than his parents. They tried to convince him to give up the relationship, even threatening to sever ties with him if he continued seeing the older woman. Despite family pressure and the villagers' ridicule, Wei Gixiang and Lan Shulian chose not to give up. They built a simple thatched house in the mountains and began a reclusive life together for a long time. Seeing that their son was determined to marry the elderly woman, his parents gradually relented and accepted the relationship. In August of 1992, Wei Gixiang and Lan Shulian registered their marriage. Seeing the couple live peacefully without causing any trouble, the villagers eventually got used to their relationship. Although Gixiang's vision had been poor before, over time, his condition worsened. His vision continued to deteriorate until he became completely blind. He could only stay at home, weaving bamboo baskets for his wife to sell at the market. Although life in the poor mountainous area was difficult, for the couple, their daily life was filled with laughter. Together, they farmed, raised chickens, and occasionally sold bamboo baskets at the market to earn extra income. Every morning, she would wake up early to prepare breakfast for her husband, and in return, Gixiang would brighten her day with his singing. Even though he couldn't see, his sharp hearing and sense of touch allowed him to always be there when his wife needed help. Julian's only wish was to save enough money to treat her husband's eyes. However, when they finally saved enough money to travel to the city for treatment, the doctor informed them that Wei Gixiang's condition had lasted too long. They had missed the optimal window for treatment, and his vision could not be restored. This news left her feeling utterly devastated, but she never complained about it in front of her husband. She understood that her husband had already endured so much pain and hardship, and she simply wanted to work harder to save more money and build a stable future for him. After many years of marriage, Lan Shulian and Wei Gixiang had never argued, nor had they ever regretted their decision to be together. Although their home was simple, to them, it was the warmest place in the world. In 2004, the love story of this grandmother-grandson couple, with a 47-year age gap, caught the attention of a documentary filmmaker. With the couple's consent, he began visiting the village to learn about their lives and created the documentary Love on the Mountain. When the documentary aired, it sparked widespread interest, and many people admired the love shared by this couple, with an age difference of nearly 50 years. Time flew by, and by 2008, Lan Shulian was 87 years old, and her health had significantly weakened. Her biggest worry was her blind young husband, who was now 40 years old. One day, villagers saw her tidying up the garden behind the mountain. When asked, she replied that it would be her burial site. On the evening of October 5, Lan Shulian felt dizzy and short of breath, unable to do anything but lie on the bed and call weakly for her husband. Overcome with worry, Wei Gixiang could only hold her tightly and help her lie down on the bed. Staggering, he ran toward his parents' house, knelt on the ground, and begged them to call a doctor for help. His family immediately called a local practitioner to examine her, but it was too late. Julian was already very weak. Lying on the bed, the 87-year-old woman looked at her young husband and, trembling, promised to continue their bond in the next life. Gixiang could only hold his wife tightly, sobbing uncontrollably. He could not bear the reality of permanently losing the beloved wife he had lived with for 16 years. His family helped him arrange a proper funeral for Lan Shulian. On the morning of the 8th, fulfilling his wife's final wish, he and his family buried her on the mountain behind their house. During the burial, he sang her favorite folk songs as a final farewell. Since his wife's passing, the 40-year-old man seemed to undergo profound changes. Villagers no longer saw him lively and cheerful as before. Instead, he lived in perpetual sorrow. He never sang again, spending his days sitting quietly by his wife's grave, his blind eyes gazing into the distance. Their thatched house on the mountain remained, but Shulian's departure to eternity left the young husband's life unbearably lonely. The love between Lan Shulian and Wei Gixiang endured countless hardships and challenges, yet it remained as steadfast as ever. They ignored society's judgment and bravely pursued their own happiness. They proved that love can transcend the barriers of age, status, and prejudice. Julian devoted her life to protecting Wei Gixiang, while the blind man brought warmth and hope to the 87-year-old woman with his sweet voice. In their moments of loneliness and helplessness, they became each other's light in life. This 16-year-long love story had no earth-shattering miracles or grand promises, only mutual protection and companionship. The true stories of love that defied age between grandmother-grandson couples come to an end here. Share your thoughts, feelings, and opinions about this story in the comments section below the video. The video ends here. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. This helps us continue bringing you more meaningful content. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video. A man nicknamed Monkey Boy was suspected of being a hybrid between a woman and a wild man, but experts considered him a treasure. Even more astonishing, this Monkey Boy was 30 years old and had never been sick, rarely bathed, and never used toilet paper, yet his body had no foul odor. The peculiar man had black hair on his palms, feet, chest, and buttocks, never wore clothes year-round, and went barefoot even in the cold winter. Notably, he had a large body but a small head, moved quickly, and could not speak. Could this man really be a hybrid between a human and a wild man? Is there a deeper mystery behind this story? Let's explore it together. Before we begin the story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel to receive notifications whenever a new video is uploaded. This is a true story that took place in Zhangyang County, Hubei Province, China. One day, a police officer went to Liziping village in Zhengjiapo to investigate a case. While walking down the road, he was shocked to see a man with a strange half-human, half-ape appearance, naked but casually walking around. Intrigued, the officer approached to ask questions, but the man didn't respond and only made simple sounds like ah, using body language to communicate. As the officer got closer, the peculiar man became frightened and ran off into the forest. After returning to town, he shared what he saw with friends in the media, but many didn't believe him. Some reporters even claimed the police officer was making up the story because the idea of a human-ape hybrid seemed impossible. The story gradually faded into obscurity until October 1986, when Wang Fangchen, a photographer from the Environmental Protection Agency, and his friend Liu Jiang went to Hubei Province for work. After finishing a documentary, the two accidentally heard about a mysterious creature suspected to be a human-ape hybrid nicknamed Monkey Boy near Shenangjia. Shenangjia has long been a mysterious forbidden land for the Chinese and is home to many legends about savage people, also known as wild men. Therefore, the news of a monkey boy found near Shenangjia made the story even more fascinating, fueling their determination. Curious to find out if the story was true, the two decided to travel to Shenangjia to investigate. 2 days later, after continuously asking local villagers for information, they finally arrived at Liziping village. Since the village was in the mountains of Zhangyang County, south of Shenangjia, and only had about a dozen households, they walked tirelessly but still couldn't find the monkey boy. Just as he was feeling discouraged, Wang Fangchen suddenly saw a half-human, half-ape creature, naked, running along the road. Although shocked, Wang picked up his camera to take pictures, his hands trembling with fear. After taking a few photos, he didn't forget to switch to video mode to capture this rare sight. Upon seeing a stranger, the monkey boy shouted "Ah, ah," and fled. Wang and his companion immediately chased after him, but were forced to follow discreetly when the monkey boy started picking up stones to throw at them. Surprisingly, the naked man ran to a rickety wooden house, where a middle-aged woman was standing outside. After inquiring, Wang was shocked to learn that this woman was the mother of the monkey boy. Not wanting to miss this golden opportunity, the two sought to learn about the monkey boy's life experiences through his family. However, they faced difficulties as the monkey boy's parents were unwilling to entertain the two photographers who had traveled from afar. Although they couldn't interview the parents, Wang still gathered many useful clues from the neighbors. One villager revealed that the monkey boy's parents were ordinary people, and he even had an older brother, an older sister, and a younger sister. Everyone in the family was normal, except for the monkey boy, who had an unusual and peculiar appearance. Shockingly, all the villagers claimed that the monkey boy was the result of the mother's relationship with a wild man. Despite being called monkey boy, he was actually 30 years old, but had the mental capacity of a child. Due to time constraints, Wang Fangchen and his companion hurriedly left the village after collecting numerous photos and videos. Upon returning to Beijing, Wang quickly handed over the visual data to the Institute of Vertebrate Paleontology and Paleoanthropology, part of the Chinese Academy of Sciences. At that time, the visual data was copied into 2 versions, one handed to paleontologist Yuan Zhengxin. The other copy was given to Li Jian, the first executive chairman of the Chinese Wild Man Research Association. When paleontologist Yuan Zhengxin first saw the video of the monkey boy, he was astonished. He began to question the origins of the monkey boy because of a strange protrusion on his head. The protrusion resembled a sagittal crest, a feature typically found on the heads of orangutans or apes. This sagittal crest is one of the characteristics that distinguishes gorillas, chimpanzees, orangutans, and apes from humans. However, this crest disappeared long ago from human skulls through the process of evolution. Additionally, the monkey boy's collarbone was not horizontal like that of humans, but V-shaped, similar to that of monkeys. Furthermore, the monkey boy's arms were very long, resembling those of an orangutan. So why did the monkey boy have a sagittal crest on his head? Was he truly a hybrid between a human and a wild man, as the villagers claimed? Based on the circumstances, experts speculated that the monkey boy might indeed be the offspring of a woman and a wild man from the deep forest. However, due to outdated technology and difficult transportation at the time, the experts could not return to Liziping village to verify their hypothesis. Meanwhile, Li Jian was fascinated by the images and videos of the monkey boy. After preparing related documents and equipment, he planned to go to Hubei to uncover the truth. But before he could embark on his journey, Li Jian fell ill and passed away from cancer in 1995. After Li Jian's death, his wife and daughter, Li Yiping, discovered some photos and videotapes while sorting through his belongings. When Li Yiping saw the photo of the monkey boy, she was shocked. The image depicted a tall man resembling a monkey, completely naked. A video titled "The First Wild Man Expedition in Shenangjia" caught her attention. After watching the entire video, Li Yiping believed it was a very important recording, and decided to make it public. In October 1997, she converted the videotape into a CD and sent it to newspapers in Wuhan. Subsequently, a newspaper in Wuhan published the story of the monkey boy, and the story once again ignited widespread media attention. Information about the monkey boy suddenly captivated millions of people, prompting experts to begin investigating the truth. A team of reporters from CCTV went to interview the monkey boy's older brother, Zhang Fanlong. Zhang confirmed that in the village, his younger brother was called Monkey Boy, but he did, in fact, have a proper name. The monkey boy's real name was Zhang Fansheng, born in 1957 in Liziping village. When Zhang Fansheng was born, the entire village was abuzz due to his somewhat unusual appearance. According to his older brother, his palms and soles were covered with black hair. Even his chest and buttocks had some hair. Seeing such a strange child born, the villagers speculated and raised many questions. Some villagers believed that Zheng's mother had been abducted by wild men living in the Shenongjia forest when she went into the mountains to gather firewood. After returning, her belly began to grow, and 9 months later, she gave birth to Zhang Fansheng. Furthermore, the black hair on the child's head gradually disappeared, reinforcing the villagers' belief that he was a hybrid between a human and a wild man. Later, as Zhang Fansheng grew up, his family gradually discovered that his intelligence did not develop and remained at the level of a child. This monkey boy was naked year-round, never wearing clothes or shoes, even during the coldest winter months. Although he was born to humans, he had skin and a face resembling an orangutan, or monkey. Moreover, the monkey boy had a hunched back and curved shoulders, but moved very quickly. Despite being taught to speak, he could not talk and could only produce a few simple howling sounds. Whenever he needed to express something, if he was happy, the monkey boy would clap his hands on his thighs. But when angry, he would jump up and beat his chest with both hands. Even more astonishing, the monkey boy, despite being 30 years old, had never been sick and was even healthier than normal people, despite his preference for eating raw food. Another strange detail was that he never used toilet paper and rarely bathed, yet his body emitted no foul odor. Zhang Fanlong added that although his younger brother was different, he still lived in the same house with the family. While the villagers gossiped about his younger brother's origins, they could only speculate since the truth remained unclear. Zhang's mother never spoke about whether she had truly been abducted by eccentric men living in the forest. The monkey boy's act of throwing stones was also peculiar compared to normal people. Under normal circumstances, people throw stones from top to bottom, but the monkey boy threw stones from bottom to top. When the story of the human-ape hybrid became the center of attention, paleontologist Yuan Zhengxin emerged as the most important figure in the journey to uncover the mystery. He took the initiative to lead a team to Liziping village, Xingjiapo, in Zhangyang County. This time, Yuan and his team planned to use DNA technology to uncover the mystery of the monkey boy's life experiences. Accompanying the team were reporters from several television stations to document the expedition. However, upon arriving, the team learned that the monkey boy had passed away, forcing them to abandon plans to collect DNA samples. A relative of the family revealed that the monkey boy's parents had passed away just 1 year after meeting photographer Wang Fangchen. Since his siblings had all married and moved out, the monkey boy had no one to care for him and could only wander around begging for food. He ate whatever the villagers gave him, from bananas to green vegetables. In the winter of 1989, the monkey boy suffered from diarrhea for a few days and then passed away. Despite the monkey boy's death, the team of experts refused to give up. They then approached Zhang Fanlong, the monkey boy's older brother, and persuaded him to allow the excavation of the grave to collect the remains for examination. Seeing Zhang hesitate, the experts analyzed the pros and cons of the situation. Although the monkey boy had been deceased for many years, the villagers still believed he was the offspring of his mother and a wild man from the forest. The experts explained to Zhang Fanlong that the only way to dispel this rumor and prove the monkey boy's origins was to exhume the grave and conduct tests. Additionally, The expert team promised the Zheng family financial compensation to ensure their daily living expenses were covered. Persuaded by the experts, and after careful consideration, Zheng Fanlong finally agreed. On December 18, 1997, Chinese paleontologist Yuan Zhengxin led the team of experts to the cemetery. After several hours of excavation, the monkey boy's remains were finally unearthed. The team carefully transported the remains back to Beijing for research to determine whether the monkey boy was truly a hybrid between a human and a wild man. What surprised the researchers was that the protrusion resembling 3 crests on the top of the monkey boy's head, as seen in earlier image data, was no longer present. Based on this detail, Yuan Zhengxin believed that the protrusion on the monkey boy's head was actually just a swollen mass of flesh and not a bony crest like that of apes. The experts then transported the monkey boy's entire skeleton to the Institute of Vertebrate Paleontology and Paleoanthropology for a comprehensive measurement of the bones. The results were surprising. They discovered that the monkey boy's skull was much smaller than that of an average person. The extremely small skull correlated with a small brain capacity. Research indicated that the monkey boy's brain volume might have been only 700 milliliters. This meant that the monkey boy's brain was equivalent to that of a 1-year-old child. In comparison, the brain volume of a normal adult is between 1400 and 1450 milliliters. It seems that the reason the monkey boy could not speak and exhibited intellectual delays was closely related to the small size of his brain. Aside from the differences in the skull, the experts conducted measurements and analyses of the monkey boy's other bones and found that his limb and facial bones were no different from those of humans. Typically, newborns have a fontanelle on the top of their heads. This fontanelle allows the skull to continue growing after birth. The fontanelle at the top of the head does not close until it can accommodate a brain volume of about 1400 milliliters. In medicine, an early closure of the fontanelle can result in a small head and a small brain, a condition known as microcephaly. This is an extremely rare condition, with fewer than 1,000 cases reported worldwide. After consolidating the results, the team of experts concluded that Zheng Fansheng, the monkey boy, was neither a hybrid between a human and a wild man, nor a descendant of orangutans or apes. Zheng Fansheng was simply an ordinary person suffering from microcephaly, also known as brain atrophy syndrome. Currently, the monkey boy's remains are still preserved at the Institute of Vertebrate Paleontology and Paleoanthropology, part of the Chinese Academy of Sciences, for further research. According to the experts, although the monkey boy was a microcephaly patient, his bones were very unique, particularly the V-shaped collarbone. Additionally, Zheng Fansheng's unusually long arms, resembling those of an orangutan, remain valuable for research. After receiving the results from the experts, Zheng Fanlong felt a great burden lifted off his shoulders. He stated that ever since the government announced the research findings, his family had been vindicated, and the villagers no longer referred to his younger brother as a freak. The story of the man with an unusual appearance nicknamed the Monkey Boy, who was misunderstood as a hybrid between a human and a wild man from the forest, comes to an end here. Please share your thoughts, feelings, and opinions about this story in the comments section below the video. This video concludes here. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, as it will help us continue bringing you more meaningful content. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next videos. A farmer claimed to have had an intimate encounter with a 3-meter-tall extraterrestrial woman for 40 minutes. He even stated that he would meet his hybrid child and the alien again in 2050. Even more astonishing, the farmer passed a police lie detector test. Numerous experts, scientists, and reporters investigated the truth and uncovered strange phenomena. On the mountain where the man claimed to have seen the UFO, they found many trees turning yellow and large rocks shattered to pieces. Furthermore, many locals also confirmed seeing an unidentified object fall onto the mountain. How much of the man's story is true? Could there be a hidden mystery behind it? Let's explore now. Before we dive into the story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel to get notified whenever there's a new video. This strange but true story happened on Phoenix Mountain in Wuchang City, Harbin, Heilongjiang Province, China. At around 11 am on June 6, 1994, Meng Zhaoguo, a farmer living at the foot of Phoenix Mountain, and his nephew Li Honghai went to a hill. They had heard villagers who were picking wild vegetables say that a giant white unidentified object had fallen nearby. So the two went to collect scraps, rubber bands, or plastic bags for reuse. Since it was over a dozen miles away, the villagers who were foraging for wild plants didn't know what it was, only that it was a strange object. Meng Zhaoguo, born in 1967, was only 27 at the time. He had only completed up to the 5th grade and worked as a farmer on an agricultural farm. Back then, transportation was limited, and people could only make their own trails, so very few ventured up the mountain unless they were gathering vegetables or chopping wood. Meng Zhaoguo had previously seen white weather balloons and suspected the strange object the villagers mentioned was one of those. However, when he and his friend Li Honghai approached the strange white object, both were astonished because it didn't resemble a weather balloon. The strange object was over 50 meters long and 3 meters tall, resembling a horizontal question mark or a helicopter without rotor blades. Its overall color was milky white with a slight yellowish tint, and at the top of the question mark shape, there was something protruding that resembled frog eyes. Another small part had a fork-like shape resembling a goldfish tail, similar to a leg. The entire object gave the impression of an upright device that had been flipped upside down. Unsure of what the object was, the two men decided to circle around it for a closer inspection. When they were about 150 meters away from the white object, they suddenly heard a sound resembling the whistle of a Milan 821 winch. The two were so terrified that they ran away. After running over 300 meters, the sound disappeared. They stopped to observe for a while and decided that Li Honghai would stay behind while Meng Zhaoguo returned to investigate further. However, upon reaching the previous location, the strange sound echoed again. At the same time, Meng's metal buckled belt and the knife at his side began vibrating. Regaining his composure, he felt as though every metal object he was carrying, such as a hammer and screwdriver, gave him an electric shock. Terrified, he ran away a second time, but his curiosity still pushed him forward. Observing the strange object from afar, he decided to approach from a different angle, but the result was the same as before. With no other options, the two hurried down the mountain and told the villagers about the strange incident. The farm manager also heard about the bizarre story and decided to lead the villagers up the mountain to investigate on June 7 and 8. However, it rained continuously over those 2 days, making the mountain path treacherous, so they abandoned their plans. On the morning of June 9, Zhou Ying, the Forestry Union director, led more than 30 people equipped with tools like binoculars, cameras, recorders, and ropes. Leading the group was Meng Zhaoguo himself as they headed toward the southern slope of the hill. When the group was about 200 meters away from the unidentified object, they stopped and began observing through binoculars, but saw nothing, just dry trees and rocks around. Where was the UFO and the extraterrestrial being Meng had described? Everyone felt they had wasted their valuable time believing in his far-fetched story. The forestry director tried to stay calm and patted Meng Zhaoguo on the shoulder, handing him the binoculars to take another look. Just a few days ago, he had clearly seen the strange object, but now it was nowhere to be found. As he raised the binoculars a second time to carefully observe, something bizarre happened. Meng glanced in a certain direction and suddenly collapsed to the ground as if he had been electrocuted. His entire body convulsed, trembling, and he began stuffing wild grass into his mouth. Shocked by the scene, some villagers remained calm and rushed to pull his hands away. But by then, Meng's body had stiffened completely. The group abandoned their search for extraterrestrials and immediately carried Meng to the nearest warehouse. On the way to the warehouse, he kept shouting the words "too bright," so the villagers had no choice but to cover his head with a shirt and guide him there. After arriving at the warehouse, Meng Zhaoguo regained consciousness but behaved as if possessed, continuously screaming and rolling on the floor, flailing his arms and legs wildly as if trying to keep people away. Just a few minutes later, he collapsed to the ground, then suddenly stood on his hands with his legs nearly punching a hole through the warehouse ceiling. Since the roof was low, most of the people inside had to crouch, which is why his feet broke through the ceiling. Everyone was bewildered, wondering when this farmer had suddenly become a martial artist. According to the villagers who were present, Meng suddenly became so strong that even young men couldn't restrain him. His eyes were wide open, with his pupils moving in opposite directions, creating a terrifying sight. Because Meng's condition was so bizarre, the villagers decided to split into two groups. One group went back to the village to find a county doctor, while another group followed a young man named Feng Xiaobo to search for the strange white object. Feng Xiaobo himself claimed to have seen the strange object on the mountain 2 days earlier, but when they arrived, they found nothing. Those who searched the mountain found nothing, but Meng, when examined by the doctor, behaved even more strangely. He was afraid of bright light and objects made of iron. He was ready to attack anyone wearing metal items, throwing them far away and even clashing with the doctor, who was holding a stethoscope to examine him. Meng only temporarily calmed down after everyone removed their watches, belts, and left all iron objects outside the warehouse. Believing that the man was pretending, the doctor lit a cigarette and slowly brought it close to Meng's eyes and eyelashes. However, Meng didn't blink even once. The doctor concluded that the man was physically fine, except for some strange phenomena, such as his forehead temperature being significantly higher than the rest of his body. Moreover, his eyes remained wide open and his mouth was agape, but his tongue was stiff. Some witnesses even claimed that at times he foamed at the mouth. Judging by Meng Zhaoguo's symptoms, neither epilepsy nor schizophrenia seemed to be the cause. The doctor suggested that a comprehensive examination would require taking the patient to a major city for testing. Later that afternoon, Meng was escorted back home by villagers in an incoherent state, leaving his mother extremely worried. His wife, Jiang Ling, also couldn't explain her husband's strange behavior. Meanwhile, police and reporters flocked to Phoenix Mountain to investigate the incident. The officers went door to door, interviewing residents to see if anyone else had seen an object in the sky. The police investigation lasted only 1 day, and all they gathered was that many people from the logging camp and the farm had seen an object fall from the sky. However, when they searched Phoenix Mountain, they found no strange objects, not even a trace. Many other strange phenomena occurred in the area in the following weeks. Temperatures in the region suddenly dropped below freezing, causing widespread frost as heavy snow fell. Heilongjiang, being the northeasternmost province of China and sharing a border with Russia, is no stranger to cold weather and snowfall. However, snow and freezing temperatures in June were still highly unusual. Witnesses, including loggers and residents, also reported another strange event. They saw a massive tornado covering half of Phoenix Mountain. The tornado had a peculiar shape, narrow at the top and wide at the bottom, and inside the funnel, they saw flashing red and blue lights. However, no one investigated or looked into what the residents had reported. As for Meng Zhaoguo, he spent most of his time sleeping, or as witnesses described, falling into a comatose state. For a month, he remained in a delirious condition, waking up only to shout at the sky or fight with something invisible. Occasionally, he had seizures, flailing his arms, or wandered around in a trance-like state, as if his soul had left his body. He even wrote symbols and letters that were not Chinese and whose meaning no one could decipher. At first glance, they resembled Latin or Cyrillic letters. Strangely, Meng had only studied up to the 5th grade and only knew Mandarin. His family repeatedly took him to the hospital, but he remained in an unresponsive state. Rumors about Meng Xiaoguo's strange behavior quickly spread throughout the village, causing widespread fear as people speculated he had contracted some mysterious disease and avoided him. He only fully recovered on July 17, exactly 1 month later, and recounted many extraordinary stories. The man claimed to have seen and spoken with extraterrestrials and even had an intimate relationship with an alien woman. While everyone thought Meng had lost his mind, only he knew that he was entirely conscious the whole time. He claimed that he had been in another dimension from June 9 to July 17, and the journey only ended after completing an intimate encounter with the alien woman. According to Meng, after using the binoculars, he suddenly saw the surrounding trees and rocks grow abnormally large and spotted an alien. The alien wore a tight-fitting coat, made of a material similar to a raincoat but stiffer. When their eyes met, the next moment, a red beam of light shot out from the alien's hand and hit him directly in the eyebrow. Immediately, he fell to the ground, his entire body convulsing as if electrocuted. When he was brought to the warehouse at the foot of the mountain, he opened his eyes and saw a nearly 3-meter-tall alien woman with 6 fingers and eyes as big as a cow's. Oddly, she wore a tight-fitting outfit that only left her head and lower body exposed. As the alien woman approached and tried to remove her clothing, Meng resisted fiercely by flailing his arms and legs. Meng believed that the reason others saw him flailing and screaming was because he was fighting off the alien woman. Perhaps his resistance worked, as the alien woman didn't advance further, but instead implanted something the size of a green pea into his thigh. Later, when he opened his eyes, he found himself back home, but still in a dazed state. In one of his dazed episodes at home, he had an intimate encounter with the alien woman lasting 40 minutes. Recalling the experience, the farmer said that at the time, he floated above the bed where his wife and daughter were sleeping. After the encounter, the alien woman injected him with a strange substance. It didn't cause pain, but he later developed warts. Until the night of July 16, this marked his final contact with the aliens. 2 male aliens appeared and escorted the woman out of his house while the roof of his home bulged upwards. Using a translation device, the aliens explained that they came to Earth to study it in detail and to prevent an asteroid collision with their home on Jupiter. Their ultimate purpose for coming to Earth was to borrow human genetic material. They explained that in 60 years, around 2050, he would meet his child again. The journey ended when they took him into the air, allowed him to witness the Shoemaker-Levy 9 comet colliding with Jupiter, and removed some of the warts on his legs. At exactly 3:40 am on July 17, he woke up wearing only his underwear and quickly returned to his normal state. When he woke up, he saw a wound on his leg covered by a sticky substance, which he scratched off. However, his wife had thrown it away while cleaning the house, thinking it was chewing gum. Since the aliens had taken him through walls and the door was locked from the inside, he couldn't enter the house and had to call his wife to open the door. His wife was very surprised, unable to understand how her husband ended up outside while the door was still locked from the inside. What shocked many was that indeed, in mid-July 1994, the Shoemaker-Levy 9 comet collided with Jupiter in real life. After this event, frequent strange phenomena began occurring at his house. For instance, the pine tree on their windowsill bloomed twice in 1 year, and on some nights, the flowers emitted a white glow. During the 1980s and 1990s, there was a UFO craze in China. Meng Xiaoguo's claim of having an intimate relationship with a female alien only made the story more sensational. Numerous media outlets and reporters covered the event. Thousands of news agencies worldwide even reported on it. The extraordinary man himself received over 100 interviews from news outlets, police, and scientists. Could Meng Xiaoguo's account be true? The man repeatedly told the same story to the press and the police. However, the police doubted the authenticity of his story. In their second approach, they posed as reporters and UFO enthusiasts. Besides interviewing Meng himself, they also questioned villagers and farm workers. After comparing and cross-referencing the answers they received, the police concluded that the alien incident was either a case of mass hysteria or an organized hoax. They even regarded these honest farmers as uneducated and somewhat foolish for creating such a complex story to deceive others. Later, medical examiners conducted a physical examination on Meng and discovered 2 scars that weren't previously on his body. One was a horizontal scar across his abdomen, while the other was a smaller scar on his thigh. Doctors stated that the scars were not caused by ordinary injuries, and the man had never undergone surgery in his 27 years of life. The scars remained visible on his skin until 2003, and it wasn't until 2017 that they began to fade. At the same time, Meng's story about having sexual relations with a female alien prompted the State Science and Technology Commission to launch an investigation. They formed an investigation team to thoroughly examine every corner of Phoenix Mountain in October. The verification of Meng's story was divided into 2 parts. The first part was to determine whether a white, unidentified object had ever appeared on the southern slope of Phoenix Mountain. On this matter, Meng was not the only witness. Many locals also claimed to have seen the strange object fall. The second part involved Meng Xiaoguo's claims of multiple encounters with aliens, but he was the only witness for these events. So, did a UFO really appear on Phoenix Mountain? The first person to report the incident was Guan Hongsheng, a journalist from the propaganda department of the Shanhaitun Forestry Bureau. He conducted an interview with Meng on June 6. Additionally, he wrote a report about the appearance of a UFO and how a young man was knocked unconscious by a flying disc while observing it through binoculars. This report detailed the entire process, from Meng Xiaoguo and Li Honghai discovering the unidentified white object to the onset of Meng's illness. Furthermore, the report mentioned that the grass at the site where the object landed had turned yellow, while the surrounding grass remained green. On June 29, the Forestry Bureau leadership received a report and sent personnel to conduct a field inspection. Upon arrival, they found a large number of rocks that had been shattered by an external force at the location where the UFO was reportedly found. Moreover, there was a large dent in a rock where witnesses said the object had fallen. Without a doubt, the changes to these rocks were caused by a strong external force. However, it couldn't have been due to heavy rain or flash floods, as there had been no significant rainfall in the area at that time. Even if there had been flooding or a landslide, the entire area should have been altered, rather than just individual rocks being displaced or shattered while others remained intact. If humans had caused it, who would travel dozens of miles into the mountains to overturn and destroy such large rocks? Furthermore, some of the rocks were so massive that they couldn't have been moved by 1 or 2 people. It would have required the strength of a vehicle or dozens of people. From these details, it's evident that the reports shared many consistent points, and the rocks and vegetation in the area showed unusual changes. However, not everyone believed these reports, with some suggesting that it was all just some kind of misunderstanding. Wang Fengxian, the first president of the Beijing UFO Research Organization, offered his own assessment. He suggested that the scorch marks on tree trunks and some shattered rocks could have been caused by an aircraft landing. As for Meng Xiaoguo, in September 2003, he underwent a lie detector test in Beijing. Strangely, he passed with a success rate of 98%. However, many believed lie detector tests at the time were unreliable. Skeptics of his story pointed out that there was no solid evidence other than scars, damaged trees, and broken rocks in the forest. They argued that Meng might have experienced hallucinations and could easily pass a lie detector test simply because he believed in his own imagination. After the event, the farm considered erecting fences and gates to keep curious visitors out, as some had started flocking to the site of Meng Xiaoguo's alleged encounter. Meanwhile, a researcher from the Chinese Academy of Sciences brought a Geiger counter to Meng's house. However, they discovered that the radiation measuring device malfunctioned and couldn't provide accurate readings near the wall where the aliens were said to have entered Meng's home. Wang witnessed this phenomenon firsthand, but couldn't explain the mysterious occurrence. Meng later continued to claim that aliens visited him regularly. The stone gifted to him by the aliens in 2016 was analyzed and found to be an extremely rare precious metal called terbium. But how could an ordinary man like Meng obtain such a stone? To this day, no one has been able to explain it. Some believed that thanks to Meng's alien story, Phoenix Mountain became a famous tourist destination. Meanwhile, Meng himself benefited from this, as media outlets had to pay the farm whenever they wanted to interview him. Additionally, he secured a stable job working at the cafeteria of Harbin University. By 2001, Phoenix Mountain was officially designated as a national park, and a hotel and restaurant were built near the site where Meng claimed to have seen the strange object. In later years, Meng grew to dislike his fame and the controversy surrounding him. He did his best to refuse any television interviews and declined to sign contracts with those seeking to exploit his story. Moreover, whenever someone recognized him in public, he denied it and claimed they had mistaken him for someone else. He also advised his children to avoid anyone who might recognize them to avoid unnecessary trouble. Speaking about his job selling food at a university cafeteria in Harbin, he admitted taking the job because the university provided housing with a very modern heating system. Moreover, his wife and daughter also worked at the university, earning a good income. Life in the city was much better compared to their previous life in the countryside. In his most recent interview in 2024, he expressed reluctance to revisit the old story. Meng Xiaoguo stated that he didn't ask people to believe his story, but he trusted his own memory. The man also denied claims that he suffered from hallucinations or any illnesses, as some rumors suggested. Now 57 years old, he leads a quiet and peaceful life. He continues to work at the Harbin University of Commerce cafeteria and feels content with his happy life alongside his wife and children. The Meng Xiaoguo incident remains one of the 4 most significant and fascinating UFO events in China. To this day, debates continue over whether a UFO really appeared on Phoenix Mountain. The question of whether Meng was selected by aliens for reproduction still sparks much controversy among experts worldwide. The story of the man claiming to have had an intimate relationship with an alien woman concludes here. Share your thoughts, feelings, and opinions about this story in the comments section below the video. This video has come to an end. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. It helps us continue bringing meaningful content to you. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next videos.